We might go over the half hour, we might be finished in plenty of time, I don't know. Just depends what, you know, if there's any questions that pop up, we can answer as we're going along. Yeah, there's lots of foiling machines out there, lots of different ones, and everybody, you know, is happy with the one they've got. I think it's always, these things are subjective, aren't they? You know, if you've got one that you're happy with, then why would you suggest anything other than the one you're using? You know, I'm happy with the one I've got. It was a gift, so, you know, I have no idea what any of the others are like, but I enjoy using the one I've got. So, you know, it's just one of those things, and at the end of the day, it's going to be personal preference. So, you know, I'm not gonna be saying you really must buy this one or you really must buy that one. I'm not. I will say that Lisa's got the Glimmer on her show this afternoon at 4 o'clock, the new Spellbinders one. It is a new edition, and I have a feeling it's probably on a reasonably good offer. So, you know, if you're looking for one and it sort of fits your budget, then go for that. If not, and you want to look for something else, then do that as well. Right, let's get stuck in, shall we? The first thing I would say is, when you get your machine, whatever machine it is, read the instructions. Because I sat and read this from cover to cover and then went back and thought, now what did it say about such and such? You might not use every aspect of your machine. You might, I don't know. I've tried a couple of things this morning that I thought, oh, didn't know you could do that. So I'll show you those as well. But do read it, and don't be frightened of it. You know, at the end of the day, buy it. I know I've seen a lot of comments that say, oh, I've got a hot foiling machine, I've never used it yet. Okay, so yeah, read your instructions. Important. Right, so let it heat up. It takes about 5-6 minutes to heat up. Now, I know you can't really see if I move it. I don't know whether you can see the light if I move it in slightly. I'll just move it a little bit more. Right, hopefully you can see this panel down here now, and if you watch this bit here, there's a little green light there, which means it's reached its temperature. It will, once the temperature drops slightly, it will start flashing red, and it's just heating back up to the specified temperature, which is, it does tell you in here what the temperature is, 90 degrees centigrade. However, I've yet to burn myself on it. Yes, it gets warm, but if you're careful, you're not going to burn yourself. I've been using it a while now and I haven't yet, so fingers crossed. So you can see now that that little red light's flashing again. It means the temperature's dropped down just slightly than the optimum temperature it runs at. So all I'm going to do is just pop my plate on there, and what you need to do is warm this plate as well. So I'm going to let this light go green, which it has now, and then I'm going to leave it for a minute for that plate to warm up. Okay, so while that's warming up, let me just run through the things that I'm going to be using. Obviously I'm using the two new foil plates. These are the two that I've been given to use. There are 4 in the bundle, obviously, and I will be getting the other 2 when they come onto Lisa's website, because the way they're set up on Create and Craft, I've got 1 of each pair, so I don't want to buy the bundle and I don't want to buy the other pairs because I'd be doubling up. So I'm going to wait till they come on Lisa's website and I'm going to buy the other 2 that I need. But I'm also going to just show you the butterflies. Now, I haven't checked stock levels on anything that I'm showing you today, because primarily we're looking at the new foiling plates, but I just wanted to go through the other things that I've used. So I have done a couple of the butterflies as well, and obviously there's an embossing folder and dies that go with it. So those are your foil plates and your embossing folder and your dies that go with it. Now, if you're foiling your butterflies, I don't think they need embossing personally, because I think, and I'll show you what I mean when I come to the butterflies, I think the embossing spoils the foiling. You might not. for me personally, if I'm foiling, I wouldn't emboss, I'd just die cut. Okay, so that's one set that I'm using. And then the other things that I'm using are my nesting dies, which I say to you every time I'm live, a staple in your craft stash. And I know some of you have been and bought the rectangles recently after what I said last week, and that's great. You won't regret it, I promise you, you won't. I'm also just going to use the Layering Cubes stencils because they're so clever. And then I just wanted to show you these two as well. Now, these two, Lisa bought out some time ago, right? And these were one pass cut and stamp, and they were designed really to be used with inks. So you rub your ink over the plate and then run it through your die cutting machine, and it transfers the ink to your card. But they do foil as well, and I've only done this one, but I've done one in black and one in gold, and they foil like a dream. So, you know, if you've got these two plates, you can use them through your foiling machine as well, and they are just fabulous. They look beautiful on cards, so you can use those as well. I'm not using those today. I just want to concentrate on the foiling plates that Lisa's bringing out. Really, let's use this plate. So now this is warmed up, I'm going to use a piece of foil and a piece of card. Okay, now while this is heating up, what you would do is cut all your foils and cut all your pieces of card ready to use, because once you've sort of set up, I mean, I've got loads of bits of card here, loads of different shapes, and it then becomes an easier task for me, rather than cutting each piece of foil as you need it, cutting each piece of card as you need it. If you set yourself up with sort of like a conveyor belt of stuff, then I think that makes it a lot easier. So I've got several foils, some of which came with the machine, and some of which, again, the same friend came and gave me some foils as well. So, you know, I love this friend. So my plate is on my machine, and I'm just going to lift the lid, and I'm putting my foil face down, okay, onto that plate, and then I'm going to add my piece of card. Now, when you first start, I would suggest that you start with a smooth card. I was chatting with Lorraine yesterday, and I just basically said, are there any things that you wish you'd have known before you started? And this was one of the things that she said to me, was start with a smooth card. You can use textured card, you can use holographic card, you can use satin card, you can use all sorts. But until you get used to it, I would use a smooth card, and then you can see where you're going. So I've put my plate is down warming, my foil's on top, my card is on top of that, facing downwards into the foil, into the back of the foil. And then you'll see I put two pieces of card on there. Those are my shims. You'll always use shims on your foiling, and you will work out how thick that needs to be. You will use a different thickness for a positive impression than you will for a negative impression. Lisa hasn't got a negative plate at the moment. It is on its way. It's on that huge big container in the middle of the ocean that everybody thinks doesn't exist. Oh, it does. But don't tell Danny. So there is a negative plate coming. So I would say, you can see here I've got a bag of bits. These are all my negatives of my foiling that I've already done. Don't throw them away, because you can get impressions of your negatives as well as your positives. And if you look at Lorraine's green and white balloon card in the group, the green dots on the white background are the positive, and the green background with the white dots on the balloons are the negative. And I think that looks cracking. What a stunning card. Absolutely fabulous. So once you've got everything on here, you pull your plate. I mean, obviously this is for my machine. I don't know whether the others will all work the same. So pull your plate all in one go, and then put it through your die cutting machine, which is to the right of me here, but slightly off camera so you can't see it. So I'm running it through and I'm running it back again, but only because it's easier for me to take it out of my die cutting machine. And then I just pop that back in there to carry on heating. So then we'll lift the lid, take the shims off, and then lift your foil off. I mean, you can use your fingers, it's not that hot, I promise. And then take the foil off. Oh my word. Look how fabulous that is. That's probably done that because I've left it on the card too long, because I was gassing, so it's sort of splodged up here a bit. But you can lose that. But doesn't that look amazing? I just think that looks, it's such a clever plate. And I'll show you something in a minute that makes it even cleverer. But I like that. Now that is on a linen textured card. It's not the Lisa's textured card, and it's not the American Craft. It's just some cheaper linen effect card that I had in my stash that I thought I'd try. But I'm quite pleased with that. I think it's it hasn't really, there are parts where it hasn't taken, and that's probably due to the texture. But again, once you use this in your card making and you use it, either you cut a shape out of it, or you sort of die cut a rectangle or something and just use it on a card, you'll lose the bits that sort of haven't taken properly. But I really like that. I think that's really clever. And again, I'm keeping my negatives. So if I just show you these, let's just close that. If I just show you these, this is a rainbow foil, which I've got here, and I'll show you in a minute. But just look at those little hearts. How fabulous do they look? I just think these are just so beautiful. I know the dots look amazing. And then this one, this is a smaller version of the card that I put in the group. And I wondered what would happen if I used the same piece of card on top of a different foiling sheet after I'd done the first one. So I did the squares first, and then I put the heart one on my machine and put it back, and then did the hearts as well. And I just think it gives a really lovely effect of both foiling sheets at the same time. But then this one, do you remember the other day I showed you the concentric square embossing folder, and then I die cut a shape with it, and I said that it's still left the embossing, although it's not really deep like it would be if you'd done it before you die cut. It's still got an embossing on there, so I thought, well, I'll just run it through with the hearts on top, and I used a black holographic foil, and I just think that looks amazing. I think that's really beautiful. Same foil, just on flat card, just flat white card, I think looks equally as good. And then I thought, I wonder if you can do it twice. So I put the foil down on here and put my card through, and then I moved the foil slightly and put it through again. And yes, it does give you a double, but obviously where your lines have cut the foil before, it's leaving a gap. But I still think it gives a really cool effect. I mean, I'd still use that on a card. Wouldn't you? You could, because you're going to lose a lot of the gaps. And then I still think it looks effective, even with gaps. Now, when you're using black card, test a little piece first. Because I used, I think I used the black holographic on this. So black holographic on black card. Although you can see it, and it's there, it's not very obvious, is it, really? And then again, this was another concentric square. This is on textured card, and I used gold foil with the heart plate. And I think it gives a really cool effect. So let's do this piece, and let's do gold foil, and then I'll show you a clever trick. So I'll lift that up, put my foil down, put my card down, and my shims. I do tend to forget to add the shims on. I'm a bit naughty. And the trouble is, once you lift this screen again, if you've forgotten to add your shims on and you lift this screen up, it brings your card with it, so you've got to start all over again, but it's fine. You can foil with 3D embossing folders as well, but so far it's been a bit hit and miss. I've done a few and they look great. Some say you need a really thin metal shim and some say you can do it without, but I need to practice that more before I come on here and say, oh, you can do this with it. So let's run this through. I'll take this off here and run it through my machine. It's so cool, this. You've got everything in a sort of, you know, conveyor belt, and you can do it all together. And I think it's great. And it's not that hot that you're going to burn your fingers when you take the plate out either. It's just one of those. It's a heat that's there, and it might sort of you think, oh, that was a bit warm, but it's not going to hurt you, I promise. Not if you're really, really careful. So I'll put that over there out of the way to cool down, and we'll just add the heart plate for a while and let that warm up. So we take this off here. I just love the reveal, I think it's great. Okay, I've got a little bit of extra foil there. How classy does that look? I think this looks classy, but watch. Remember the stencils that Lisa bought out? These cubes. Now, this was a conversation I had with Donna the other day. I wonder if they match. Well, no is the short answer, but yes is also the answer, because they do but they don't. Okay, now number one, all I've got to do is find the right piece to where it lines up. Okay, no, that's not there. Okay, so you can see that it lines up to start with, so it's lining up here, and the further along you go, it just slips out of alignment. But if you start over here like this and add some ink, I'm going to use a bit of yellow. I'm going to take some of the ink off on this card here because I don't want it really deep. So I'm going to start here. In fact, I'll move it over because I want to do the whole of the, there's my thing there. So if I start there and just brush this through, and I'm not going very heavy, and I'm just using the ink that's on the brush, I'm not re-inking, she said. I'm just going to move that across there and line up the next bit. That's so cool, and it looks amazing. And again, just brush through, not re-inking the brush because I don't want it to be really, really heavy. And then just make sure that as you go along, you're just lining everything up all the time, and just run a little bit of ink through, and then do that last little bit, and again run the ink through. Doesn't matter if it slips because the effect will still be the same. Okay, how cool does that look? Isn't that fabulous? So that was stencil number 1, and I am going to add a stencil number 2, and I'm going to use a slightly different colour. I'm going to use the Early Sunrise, and again I'm going to just a little bit of ink, take a lot of it off, and I'm using stencil number 2, and again it won't line up straight away, but it will line up at some point, at some place, and then you can adjust it to match. Where is it? There. Just have to find the right place to line it up. There we go. Just move my ink pad out of the way. Okay, so line that up there like that, and again just go through with your brush. Don't re-ink, it's probably a little bit heavy there actually, and then come down and just move it so that you're matching up the rhomboids. They are, aren't they? Just make sure that you're matching it all up as best you can. Doesn't have to be exact, and then just brush your ink through. I won't do it all. But look how cool that looks. Look how pretty that is. And that is so easy. And you could do oodles of different colours. You could do reds and greens for Christmas. But I just think that's beautiful. So I thought I'd make a card with that one. So there's the card I made. And all I've done is I've done my foiling and I've done my colouring. And then I've just cut it down with one of the rectangles. And I've made sure it's level. And then this piece here was off, I think it's the Camellia cluster that I did ages and ages ago. And I cut it down. You remember I'd got pieces on either corner. And I cut it down and I said I won't throw that away because I'll use it on another card. So there you go. This is the card I've used it on. And then this sentiment here is from the washi set. The floral set, because they're all white. They're the same sentiments in each set. The cute set has got coloured sentiments and the florals has got white sentiments. So that, I think, looks amazing. I mean, I've rushed the stenciling, but you can line it up much better. As you can see, I did that one much slower and it worked out much better. But I think that looks really, really classy. And it was Natalia's card in the group. That I think it was a Christmas card that she did. And I saw that and I thought, that's fabulous. I think that is, I think that's fabulous. Really nice effect. So that was one card that I've made. Okay. So you don't have to do the whole plate if you don't want to. If you just want to do shapes, you can. So let's go with purple and we'll do the hearts. Now I would cut your foil down to fit your shape. That way you won't you won't waste any. And that was the other thing I was going to say to you. I used a decent pair of scissors as well. That was the thing I was going to say to you, is when you've got all these little bits, don't throw them away, because all your little bits you can use on one plate, sort of like as like a patchwork of colour, if you like. So I'm going to put my foil down there, and then I'm going to put my heart on there, just to make sure it's in the right place. Oh, 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 oh. Shims. I think it's probably warm enough. And the only thing you'll do by not making sure it's warm enough, that you haven't left it on the machine long enough, is it just, the foil won't take to the piece of card that you're putting through. Let me just put my lid on my orange ink, otherwise it'll be everywhere. Okay, so if I flip that back in there, I could have done two at the same time, but I didn't. So pull that off. How pretty is that? I just think these are just, you're gonna have so much fun. I think it's amazing. But how beautiful is that? And how good is the image that you get off this foil in? It's crisp. There's no bits missing, and that's where your shims and everything come into play. You need to make sure that you've got enough depth on what you're putting through your die cutting machine for it to give that crisp effect. Okay, so let's do a bit of gold card. I love this. And we're gonna use the black holographic. Look at this. Isn't this amazing? How cool is that? I love that. I think that's so beautiful, and it's got so many different colours in it. It's gorgeous. So let's pop that down there. Always put your foil face down, otherwise you'll end up foiling your plate, and you don't really want that. Put your card face down on there. Put your two shims on. I mean, 1, 2, whatever you've decided works for you. Depends how thick your card is that you're using for a shim. So whip that off and run it through your machine. that back in there to carry on warming up. So you see my foil was a little bit big really for that piece. I could have cut my foil down. So I've now got little bits of foiling on my shim, but it won't matter. And then I can whip that off there. Oh, look at that. How beautiful is that? Doesn't that look amazing? I just think this is such, and it is addictive, let me warn you. Let's take that off there and let me just show you something dead clever that I only discovered this morning. But you can also foil chipboard and grey board. Doesn't have to be card. So I would say use, let me show you the one I did. Where's the bit I did? What have I done with it? Yeah. Look at this. Look at that. This is just little chipboard letters. Nothing to do with Lisa Horton Crafts. So, you know, you can't get this sort of thing. It was, I wanted to show you how it worked. But these are just little wooden shapes. And all I've done is just cut my little pieces of foil to fit each letter. Put them on my, I'm just going to show you in a second. Put them on my plate, on the foil, and then run them through the die cutting machine. How fabulous is that? I just think that's so clever. So let's just show you with this. Now this is grey board, okay, and this is MDF. All right, so put these face down on your warming plate, okay, and just close that and let that warm up for a little bit. Now I'm going to use gold on here because I think it's going to look better in gold. Okay, so let's just cut this down to size. You know what I found was the best way to cut my foil was put it down on a cutting mat, and I used a knife, just ran the knife along, and it cuts beautifully. So let's just cut this piece down as well. And what you need to do is leave these pieces on here for a while to warm up. See, my light's just gone green now, so I'm going to leave it for a couple of, just a minute or so, just to make sure that those little wooden pieces are really quite warm. All right, and then what we're going to do is we're going to put our foil onto our plate, pick these up and put them onto the foil, and then put the shims on and then run it through the die cutting machine, and it will look amazing. So let's just lift this out of the way, put my foil down, put my word down, lift that out of the way, put my foil down, and then I've got to put this down and make sure it fits. A bit missing there. Okay, right, and then put my shims down. Now when you're using MDF or grey board, it only needs to be about 2 mil thick, 2.5, no more than 3, definitely not any more than 3, because if you use any more than 3 you will risk damaging your plate. All right, because when you put it through your die cutting machine, the rollers are sort of squashing this MDF or the grey board into your plate. So if you have it too thick, you're going to damage your plate. This is about right. This is just round about 2.5 mil, and I think that is just perfect. So let's put it through our die cutter. You'll feel a little bit of resistance, but honestly there isn't much. Actually the dad is too thick. I'm not going to go through with the dad. The dad is just marginally too thick, and I could feel resistance in my die cutting machine, so I didn't carry on because I don't want to damage the plate on here. All right, so dad won't be done, I doubt. So let's lift this off. Oh, look at that! How cool is that? That's amazing. just imagine what you can do with this. This one won't have worked because I didn't put it all the way through. So it's only done the top where I've sort of gone to, but I didn't want to risk it. But if this was a little bit thinner, or this was grey board, this would look great as well. You know, it would just look amazing. So I've got two little snowflakes here, and let's go with not the green. Let's do purple. Shall we do purple? No, we won't. We'll do rose gold. So I'm going to pop those down there, and these will be the last things that I do. So I'm just waiting for these to just warm up a little bit. Right, let's just pop these down here, and we'll make this the last little bit because these are quite thin. It does crease your foil, but I don't think it makes any difference. I think once you've done them and you've put them through the die cutting machine and you've taken the foil off, I think they're fine. Okay, let's just have a look and see what these look like. And why hasn't that done it all? Probably I didn't go through properly. I didn't take it all the way through. I did with this one, but I didn't with the other one. Look how cool that looks. Can you imagine these on like Christmas cards or gift tags or the like? Aren't they fabulous? This one I didn't take it all the way through the die cutting machine, but it would have done exactly the same as this one. So I'm going to pop that one back through in a minute. Just pop that on there and pop it back through. But you just goes to show you don't just have to use foiling plates. You can use all sorts. I know there are some stamps that you can use as well, but they're special stamps, and I know Lisa doesn't do those. So basically, if it's card or paper or grey board, you can foil it. So just have fun, just experiment. Yeah, absolutely, Carol. I'm not sure whether once you've foiled one side, I don't know whether you could put it through again and foil the other side without spoiling this side. I don't know. I've not tried that. Maybe I'll give that a go and see if it works. But yeah, it would be nice to have it on both sides, wouldn't it? So that you could hang it on a tree. I might have a look at that later. But yeah, you can foil any card really. Just make sure that you check your shims and you've got the right machine to put your plate through. Make sure you leave it to get to the right temperature. What else have I written down here? Yeah, just make sure when you've worked your shims out. Some people will have a negative plate. I haven't yet. I will have when Lisa's gets here, because I will. I don't know, Anne-Marie, and that's what I've just said to Carol. I'm not sure whether, having foiled this side, whether I could put it back and foil the other side without spoiling this side. I don't know, but I will have a play and let you know. Try foiling the shapes. You go for it, Jack. But just make sure they're not too thick. And if when you come to put this through your die cutting machine, you feel any resistance, stop, take it out, and don't force it, because the last thing you want to do is damage the hot plate on here, because you know, once that's gone, then you're a little bit stuffed, aren't you? So I'm going to love you and leave you. I know I've run over and I do apologise, but I just wanted to try and show you as many different things as I could in the short space of time that we've got. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you got something from it. Enjoy Lisa's shows, and I'll see you again on Monday.